allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilor Blanchett.
Mr. Chairman, before we begin, I'd like to add a couple of items to the agenda this evening. First one is for a discussion and action on a permanent easement for the Frenchman Bay Conservancy for the purpose of rehabbing and maintaining a portion of the Riverwalk behind the library and heading along the Shore Road.
So you have a motion to add that as an agenda item.
Second?
I have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. That will be added. We'll add that as item number 22.
And item number 23 would be to add a motion and discussion and motion to adopt the provisions of 5 MRSA subsection 18252-C as requested by the City of Ellsworth HR Director pertaining to the MEPERS, M-E-P-E-R-S, the Employees Insurance Program.
You have a motion to add item.
Second.
Seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. We'll add that as item number 23, and then all the other items below that will be renumbered. All right. Item 3, rules of order. We follow Robert's Rules of Order and any other rules that are adopted at the annual organizational meeting. Item 4, adoption of minutes from the following meetings of the Ellsworth City Council, 8/16/2021, the regular council meeting.
So moved.
Have a motion?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Item 5, city manager's report. Manager Mosier.
Thank you, Chair Hamilton. Good evening, everyone. Just a couple of quick things to report because we do have a very lengthy agenda. The council, for the meeting tonight, the September 20th through the 25th is Autumn Gold Days here at the City of Ellsworth. So please, folks, come out and enjoy the many different festivities that are going to be offered across the city and the savings in many of the stores and vendors and so forth. For more information about agenda of items and events taking place, I encourage you all to check the Ellsworth Area Chamber of Commerce website. We also have another event coming up October 1st through the 3rd, the Art of Ellsworth Main Craft Weekend, sponsored by the Heart of Ellsworth. And you can find more information about the activities going on over that weekend at the Heart of Ellsworth website as well. But just a listing of a few things. There'll be paper making demonstration, musics, show at the Grand, glass blowing, Down East Railroad rides, and many other things. So check out both those websites for more information about those events. And finally, the Ellsworth Fire Department will be hosting an open house on Saturday, October 9th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And it happens to coincide with Fire Prevention Week. That's all I have, sir.
Any questions? All right. Item 6, committee reports. Any councilors attend any committee? Council Miller.
I attended the Recreation Committee, and Eric Marischal was approved, his application was approved as a new member pending council approval. And the committee also voted to move ahead with the Christmas parade this year, which would be December 4th, Saturday, December 4th. Yes.
Thank you. Any other councilors attend a meeting? Hit 2. One, just a heads up, this will be posted, so be on the lookout for the date. The Finance Committee will be having a special meeting in one of the evenings in the next few weeks. And the purpose of that is to have a chance to review the bond that was approved a couple of years ago, along with the capital items and capital purchases for that have been put on the capital planning for a while, to revisit it to see where there might be some alignment. So that will be discussed at that meeting and obviously brought back to the council for further discussion, but it's a way for us to hear from city staff in terms of where that stands in those items. And as we'll hear later, just trying to get out in front of some of these items. We're placing orders for any kind of trucks. At this time, it's almost impossible to get them in a reasonable time period. So this might give us a way to look ahead and look at that. So that will be posted in time for the community to participate. And then the HCTC committee, we continue to meet with the school and community members who are EBDC around looking at a design for a new facility. So the firm at this point, they have presented some modeling, and they're also looking at what it would look like to rehab the existing facility to bring it up to what the needs are, both now and in the future. It certainly is looking like a new facility is more cost effective, but that's all being moving forward, and we should have something final fairly soon. So that'll be coming forward. Any questions, comments? All right. Item 7, citizens' comments. This is a portion of the agenda where any citizens can make comments about any item that you wish. If there's an item on the agenda, you'll have a chance to speak at that time. But if you'd like to speak, please go to the podium, state your name, and take it away.
Good evening. My name is Cara Romano. I'm the Executive Director of Heart of Ellsworth. Just want to bring to Council's attention a couple of the entrepreneurial ecosystem programs that Heart of Ellsworth is either currently running or ran earlier this year. The city clerk gave you folks a packet, and the first one that I want to talk about that we just finished up is called Bricks and Clicks. It's a business recovery program, and each program participant paired with a technical expert for a free one-on-one consultation to identify business solutions and challenges, and helped the entrepreneurs on Main Street open up at the spring of 2021. We had 22 total program participants, and we had a budget of $10,000. Some of the program goals were to expand and retain existing downtown businesses, and to get the consultants and program participants to identify solutions for the challenges that they faced reopening after the pandemic. And the last one was providing networking opportunities for the entrepreneurs and the consultants themselves. And again, this program itself was offered free to all of the downtown businesses. And we had, the program sponsors were the Maine Community Foundation, First National Bank, Machias Savings Bank, Franklin Savings Bank, and Bangor Federal Credit Union. The second program that we're in the middle of right now is the Downtown Grants Program. Last year, Machias Savings Bank funded the inaugural program with a $4,500 contribution. In the second year, we have successfully raised $11,000 to re-grant to through the 2021 funding cycle, which will take place in November. We had 3 jurors last year who chose from 12 applicants. They chose 7 awardees, and they used a scoring rubric to rate the projects. Our jurors from last year were Jana Richards, City of Ellsworth Economic Development Director, Courtney Cullum, Heart of Ellsworth Board Member and Community Member, and then Shannon Byers from SBDC and CEI. The program goals were to bolster the downtown community by putting money back into the pockets of the innovative and hardworking downtown businesses. We highlighted community banks in the Ellsworth community to sort of educate the downtown businesses. And also we created partnerships with the community-minded banks and the small business owners. We had, again this year, we had, like I said, we had Bangor Federal Credit Union, First National Bank, Franklin Savings Bank, Machias Savings Bank, and Bar Harbor Bank and Trust supported the program as well. So if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? I think they're waiting for another item. All right. Item 8, presentation of awards. So this presentation is for Reggie Winslow. The City of Ellsworth proudly presents the certificate of service to Reggie Winslow in recognition of your 5 years of service as the Water Department Superintendent for the City of Ellsworth. Your devotion to duty and loyalty to the community have contributed to the improvement of the City of Ellsworth. All right. Unfinished business consent agenda. Consent agenda, all items with an asterisk are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Item 9, Council Order 092100, request of the city clerk for approval on the time polling places open for the November 2nd, 2021 State of Maine referendum election and City of Ellsworth municipal election at 8 a.m. Number 10, Council Order 092101, request of the city clerk for appointment of wardens and ward clerks for the 4 voting districts within the City of Ellsworth for the November 2nd, 2021 State of Maine referendum election and City of Ellsworth municipal election. Item 11, Council Order Number 092102, request of the Deputy Treasurer Tax Collector to accept payments on a real estate purchase installment contract repick property located at 53 Pine Street, map 134, lot 115, and to authorize the city manager to release said property through a municipal quitclaim deed. And item 12, Council Order Number 092103, request of the Recreation Commission to appoint Eric Marichal as a member of the commission with a term to expire on June 30th, 2022. Do any councilors wish to remove any item? Seeing none, is there a motion?
Move as presented, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. New business. Item 13, public hearing and action on the application for the following licenses. Provender LLC DBA Provender 112 Main Street for renewal of a City Class C license, victualler and liquor, and renewal of a state restaurant Class 1, 2, 3, 4 malt, spiritus, and vinous liquor license. Everything in order with all the applications? So we're all set there. So this is a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing. Public hearing is open. If anybody would wish to speak to that. I'll wait. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Public hearing is closed. Counselor.
Mr. Chairman, move to approve Provender's new business application.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Acadia Bowling Lanes LLC DBA Demandas 25 Eastwood Lane for renewal of a City Class B licensed victualler liquor and arcade and renewal of a state restaurant Class 4 malt liquor, beer, liquor license. This is a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing. Public hearing is open. Anyone wish to comment? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Public hearing is closed.
Move approval of Acadia Bowling Lanes, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. The Butler Did It, LLC DBA Dragonfire Pizza, 248 State Street, for a new City Class B license, victualler liquor and arcade under 12 devices, and a new state restaurant Class 3 and 4 malt liquor, beer, and vinous liquor license. This is a public hearing. Open the public
It's a
hearing.
new license, correct? Do we have representation?
We do. So I'll open the public hearing. Public hearing is open. Any questions for the new owner?
For the butler?
For the butler?
Good luck.
Did you want to say anything? You're welcome to, or you don't have to? Nope. Okay.
No samples, no menus?
No. All right, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Public hearing is closed. We
Mr. Chairman, move approval of the request of Dragonfire Pizza.
Second.
have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Item 14, Council Order Number 092104, request of the Public Works Director to accept the winter salt bid.
And it printed out. Well, good evening, Lisa Sekulich, Public Works Director. Here tonight to request that you accept the bids for our annual winter salt supply. The low bidder this year was New England Salt. Thank you, Heidi. So on August 25th, we did a RFP and received bids. We received 3 bids out of 5. New England Salt was significantly lower than everybody else at $55 a ton, which is up slightly from last year, but not much. We've had New England Salt the previous 2 years with no issues, so I'm requesting that we continue to use New England Salt.
Mr. Chairman, move to approve the request of the Public Works Director to award the fiscal year 2022 winter salt supply contract to New England Salt at $55 per ton of delivered road salt. The contract amount to be funded from the Highway Department operating budget.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Don't go-
Thank you.
Don't go far. You're going to be there a while. Item 15, Council Order Number 092105, request to the Public Works Director to purchase a 1-ton, 4-wheel drive, single-cab work truck and authorize the city manager to sign all necessary agreements.
All right, so continuing on Wednesday, September 8th, we held a bid opening for a new 2021 or 22 1-ton 4-wheel drive pickup truck for the city's Public Works Department. 2 dealerships responded, Darlings Ford and Vardy GMC. Attached, you will find copies of the bids and the summaries. So what happened is if you look at the bids here, like I said, Darlings and Varney's both responded to our bids. By the time we reached out to Varney's to confirm that they were low bidder, the vehicle that they had submitted as a bid had been sold. It's basically a first come, first serve type scenario. So we asked them if they had anything else. So the Darlings Ford, if we went with that one, it would be 4 to 5 months out. The Varney GMC that I'm requesting to go with is a truck that they have currently being built, and it will arrive sometime in December. It's a crazy world out there trying to get any sort of vehicle, and this vehicle would be, about a year ago I was up here asking for a pickup truck because we had lost 2 pickup trucks. So last year we replaced one, and then we've got this second one now into this year's budget. And so these would be replacing this would be the second replacement of the trucks that we lost last year. And we'd be back up to our normal pickup truck fleet.
So the higher price one is 3 months out.
The higher price one will be here mid-November, December. They don't have an exact date.
So that means January.
Yeah.
And Darlings Ford, I'm just looking at the dollars. It's $4,000 cheaper for the same truck. And more or less, give or take 3-4 weeks.
Well, they say 4 to 5 months, but if GM pushes out a month, there's no doubt that Ford could potentially push out a month. You never, there's no guarantee either which way.
The difference is the Varney truck's already ordered, and it's already coming in. The Ford truck is gonna have to be ordered. It's not even ordered yet.
Not in their
Correct.
system.
So
Oh.
it's,
Okay.
that projected 4 to 5 months is a,
Yeah, that'll be
Really?
next June.
yeah.
Could very well be.
Yeah, the Varney truck is already ordered. It's one they were planning, they order so many, it's one they had on order. And then we actually have a VIN number for it. It's a specific truck. It's not just a ghost truck.
So one thing, and I won't ask you to do it this evening, but I think it would be helpful at a future meeting if you could come with a presentation of the vehicles that you have and kind of talk about the inventory. Because I think it's one of the things that I certainly hear questions about in terms of why are we buying a truck, why are we buying this? And I think it would be helpful for the community to understand what the fleet looks like, how old the fleet is, what you're trying to do, and have that overall presentation. So for a future meeting, if you could do that, that would be helpful.
If I remember right, most of the trucks that they get to run out there are inherited from every other department. And they
Correct.
get dumped on them, and then they resurrect them from the dead until the frame rots off and the body rots off. So the amount of new trucks out there are pretty darn limited.
Right, and that's why that overall presentation would be helpful, because.
Right, and,
Just
and like I said, you know, we lost 2 of them last year about this time, and we came to you and got 1 replaced, and so this would bring us up to our normal fleet of pickup trucks, which is 4 pickup trucks for the entire department.
Council Kaplan.
They can't guarantee the time frame. It's just sometime in the next.
It's not a guaranteed, it's a guaranteed, like Glenn said, I mean, it's already in the queue to be built by GMC versus the Ford. We'd be on the back end of putting an order in now.
And what about the other GMC? 'Cause
The
you have
other
3 trucks.
GMC was the one that got sold, from the time they submitted a bid to us. Like, that's the one they submitted a bid for, but they already
So the
sold it.
second one on the list that's gone.
Yep.
How long would it take them to get one like the second one on the list if you ordered it today? Or tomorrow?
Probably the same time frame as the Ford, 5 months, 6 months.
I went by up in Bangor, Chevrolets are suffering bad. They had 4 on their lot, and
We drove around all the lots up there the day we drove up to Varney. The day we opened bids, we drove up to Varney to go ask questions about how quickly the truck would come in, and that's when we found out that the one he had quoted us had been essentially sold. And this is the next one he had coming up. That was a work truck. That wasn't a whole bunch of bells and whistles.
Yeah, that's
Council Kaplan.
So this truck isn't replacing a running truck, it's replacing a truck that's no longer running?
It's replacing a truck that's been out of commission for about a year, correct?
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, move to approve the request of the Public Works Director to award the purchase of a new 2022 GMC Sierra 3500 heavy-duty 1-ton four-wheel drive pickup as specified to Varney GMC at a cost of $43,968 to be paid for through the Highway Department Equipment Capital Account.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Item 16, Council Order Number 092106, request of the Public Works Director to approve the purchase of a single-axle plow truck from Daigle and Houghton.
Okay, so, the Public Works Department, this may explain a little more as to what you're talking about for the population. So the Public Works Highway Division is requesting to purchase a new single-axle plow truck from Daigle and Houghton to update our fleet and replace one of our oldest trucks. After discussions with multiple vendors and the history and knowledge from previous bids received, we are requesting to purchase a 2022 plow truck fully rigged up for plowing from Daigle and Houghton. This truck chassis is scheduled to arrive at their location sometime in November/December of 2021, and then will be fitted up with plow gearing from HP Fairfield. Due to the market and material issues, International is not taking new truck orders, and build dates are into the late 2022, early 2023. So if we were to put something out to bid right now, it would not be built until early 2023. Western Star is also shut down and not pricing out trucks and accepting new builds at this time, as well as other vendors that we've looked into. This request allows us to purchase and receive a truck in this fiscal year and not fall further behind in updating our fleet. We're requesting this truck to replace our 2010 International plow truck. It's beyond repair.
beyond feasible repair.
Beyond feasible
That's-
repair,
yeah.
correct. It's not fiscally responsible to repair it. So The breakdown is what we're requesting is the chassis, the dump body and plow gearing, and then a 5-year engine after coverage. Not the, there's other available extended warranties, but we feel that this is the best bang for our buck in a warranty.
Questions?
Need the roads plowed.
The 73,320 includes the plows, wings, all that.
Yep,
Sander.
dump body, plow, wing, it's a do-all body, so the sander body is included with the body. Fully rigged up plow truck, yep.
Mr. Chairman, move to approve the purchase of a 2022 single-axle international plow truck with plow, wing, and dump body and associated gearing supplied by HP Fairfield from Daigle and Houghton for the sum of $172,150.42, with funding coming from the bond proceeds.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. And it can't snow until January, right?
Correct.
It's coming next month.
We can handle small snow, but.
Should we make a motion?
Coming next month,
Yeah.
so.
That's,
If it can
Council
hold
Lyons,
up.
you're out of order.
Snows a four-letter word.
It almost happened this morning.
No, it didn't. Council, number 17, Council Order 092107, request of the Public Works Director to accept the hot mix asphalt bid.
And staying on the track of, it's a crazy interesting world. On Thursday, September 9th, the city accepted bids for maintenance paving. 7 RFPs were requested and 1 bid was received. Attached is a copy of the summary of the bids. The only bid we received was from Eurovia Northeast Paving, aka Lane, for those who've been around. Pricing is up about $10 a ton, but the price of asphalt and everything else has skyrocketed over the last 6 months to a year. So it wasn't unexpected, or it wasn't completely unexpected. It's still within reasonable budget for what was anticipated. So I'm going to request to award it to them.
Council Kaplan.
Are these the only 3 roads that you're planning on paving this year, or?
Those are the 3 that are ready to go right now, so that they could potentially pave them this fall. When you accept this bid, you accept unit prices, which means we can add and subtract. So they're we can add more in the spring as they become ready.
Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman, move to approve the request of the Public Works Director to award the FY22 maintenance paving contract to Eurovia Northeast Paving per the attached pricing. The contracted amount to be funded from the local roads capital improvement account 9090900-59001.
Have a motion.
Second.
Have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. And one more.
One more.
Item 18, Council Order Number 092108, request of the Public Works Director to award the bid for the Water Street Drainage Project.
And to sum up the crazy world again, on Thursday, September 16th, there was a potential bid opening for the Water Street Drainage Project. 5 RFPs were requested, but 0 bids were received. This was the second time we put this project out to bid, and received no bidders. After adjusting dates and timeframes and everything we could do to think of to get a prospective contractor on board, I am requesting that this item be removed without prejudice, so that we may put it back out to bid at a later date and hope to get some bidders in place for, unfortunately, next fall.
Comments or questions?
We moving to table it or remove it?
To remove it.
Is there some reason, is it some, I would think that people would at least bid.
Everybody's busy and nobody, due to the location, it's got a fairly limited time frame of when we can work on Water Street. You know, before traffic gets too bad or after,
It's not
you
gonna
know.
change next year though, is there some,
The one we just put out was for them to do it essentially this winter,
yeah.
and
in
it
the
still was
winter?
no go. Every contractor is booked solid.
Solidly packed, cause we only have half the employees we should have. Not much room for doing extra.
Nope.
Mr. Chairman, move to remove the item as requested.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Item 19, Council Order Number 092109, request of the City Assessor for the City Council to grant him the authority to appeal a decision made by the Ellsworth Appeals Board.
Good evening, Larry Gardner, City Assessor. And I'm here tonight to request something really irregular. I've been doing assessing for 35 years, and I've never requested appealing a local, as the City Assessor, the local appeals board. But the reason why I'm asking for your permission to appeal is because as the city assessor, I'm an agent of the state of Maine, and if I appeal the local Board of Appeals on an assessment matter, it goes to the State Property Tax Review Board. And once at the State Property Tax Review Board, if I didn't have permission from the city council, they may find that I have no standing there at that board level. Now, the reason I'm even requesting this is because of, as of April 1st, 2019, the Maine Coast Mall appealed to the local board. The board granted a $2 million reduction in value, which would have amounted to around $40,000 in taxes abated. The Maine Coast Mall thought that was not satisfactory, so the Maine Coast Mall appealed the local appeals board to the State Property Tax Review Board. So, but that has yet to have a hearing. So that was the April 1st, 2019. This year, as of, was an appeal of the April 1st, 2020, and the Board of Appeals again granted a $2 million, basically the same reduction, and again, another $40,000 abatement in tax. So the reason why I'm here tonight primarily is because the first abatement appeal to the State Property Tax Review Board has not been heard. So if I do not appeal this most recent one, then we'd be granting $40,000, the $2 million for the April 1st, 2020 bill, without having a decision on the April 1st, 2019 appeal to the State Property Tax Review Board. And if, when it is finally heard, and there's no date, the State Property Tax Review Board is very, very slow. And they don't even give you an estimate when your hearing may come up. But if we do not appeal, then we'd be granting the $40,000 for this most recent appeal without granting $40,000 for the earlier appeal. And the actual hearing at the State Property Tax Review Board level, the city could actually win that and not pay anything for the first appeal. But yet we would not be able to get the $40,000 back for the second appeal. Assessors are not allowed to supplement something that's been abated like that. So that's the reasoning for my request, is to basically just protect the finances of the city until this is all heard at the State Property Tax Review Board level. And it is something that I've never done before. There's questions that come up, like if you grant me permission to appeal, I would have standing for sure at the State Property Tax Review Board level, but I'm appealing the city's local Board of Appeals. So yeah.
Right now, I'm still able to follow you. But the longer you're up there trying to explain something that I already understand, the worse it's getting.
Yeah.
I'm ready to make a motion.
No.
Councilor Phillips,
Pardon?
are you done? I'm sorry. I cut you off. Finish.
There's been no discussion or questions yet.
Go for it.
2 years, and the state board hasn't looked at it yet.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go to another route. I assume that they are making some meetings and having some meetings and making some decisions, correct?
I'm not exactly sure. I believe they are, yes. But there's a whole backlog of
Well, I
hearings.
understand there's a backlog, but if you could stand there and tell us that they just decided something that was abated in 2018, I might understand it, or 2017, or 2020. But we have no idea. So now you're working on a 2-year-old action that hasn't been taken yet. How did this come before the Board of Appeals again? Did they appeal one more time?
They did, yes.
Maybe after we sit here and think about this, that 5 reasonable people looked at your thought process and your thing and felt twice in a row that their value is too high and they should be abated. Maybe there's a possibility that they're correct.
Well, see, it's,
Is that a possibility, that they're correct and that maybe your assessment is high?
well, see, it's the Maine Coast Mall who appealed the Board of Appeals the first time.
No.
The
The Maine Coast Mall appealed it to the Board of Appeals because your assessment, in their opinion, is high. Is it possible they're correct because the Board of Appeals twice found against you?
Well, it is possible, but I didn't appeal the Board of
Not
Appeals
asking that.
the first year.
I'm asking you a simple question.
I said
Twice.
it is possible, yes.
Okay. So that's the same group looked at it twice and felt that. Maybe they're right. And if we waited 2 years as a landowner and a property owner, if I'd waited that long to get a decision, I'd be back there again.
I have one clarifying question. The 2019, the one that you're waiting for, that was appealed by Maine Coast to the state because they felt that the 2 million wasn't enough. Is that correct?
That's exactly right.
And we didn't appeal that portion of it, correct?
No.
So all that's before the state for that action is whether it will be reduced more,
Yeah.
but it will minimally be, the 2 million will stand.
Not necessarily, no. It's a de novo hearing, and at the State Property Tax Review Board, they could find that there's no abatement.
They could still, even though we didn't appeal on that basis?
Yep,
So they're not just looking at the matter from what was appealed?
yeah, it's a de novo hearing.
Okay. Other questions, comments?
I just,
Counselor Lyons?
I had a comment. I mean, we have a Board of Appeals, and their decision, we should trust in what they decide on their board, like they should trust what we decide on our board. And I think it'd be disrespectful almost to go against what they say.
And they found this twice.
And they found it twice.
Counselor Grimm?
I don't think that that's the question, and maybe I'm wrong. The question is, the Maine Coast Mall doesn't like the $2 million. They want more abated. So they're the ones that appealed. It's not us that's going against the appeals board. So what am I missing here?
But they granted a $2 million assessment change, which he hasn't done. That's why they're back again. They may feel they want more, but he hasn't been granted $2 million. And that hasn't changed. He hasn't changed the value. And they've done it twice.
Counselor Kaplan?
I agree, and then the other thing is you have to look at the value to the city of having them all there. Functioning as it is, there's still open or empty storefronts that don't have a store. And then the jobs that the storefronts that are occupied present to the city. And then the cost of maintenance, I mean, anyone that's tried to go to the Bangor Mall in the last 5 years knows the road's impassable. And at least the Maine Coast Mall is maintaining that to a decent degree. And taking $40,000 out of that maintenance budget is not going to be beneficial to the city as a whole. I can understand your assessment and your value, but you also have to consider those storefronts are empty.
So on the first, the 2019, when they appealed the assessment, did they come to the Ellsworth Board of Appeals with a request to reduce it more than the 2 million? And the Ellsworth Board of Appeals said, no, it's 2 million. Is that where they arrived at? But the request from them was for more, correct?
Yes, they were asking that it be, that the whole compound, which includes the site, pad sites, which was assessed at around 18 million for everything, be reduced to just a little below 10 million.
So I guess I come from the perspective of, if we're, your point about supporting the Board of Appeals, Ellsworth Board of Appeals said it's a $2 million reduction, and that's where they landed 2 years in a row. My concern is if we don't appeal it, then we might not have standing to address it if they go before the state board and request more than what the Ellsworth Appeals Board granted, and we should be at the table to refute that. Because otherwise, we're not part of the process. If they're asking, if the Maine Coast Mall is asking for more than $2 million, and the Board of Appeals said, no, it's $2 million, then that's a starting point, but they're not agreeing with the Board of Appeals, the Ellsworth Board of Appeals. They want more. And we should have some standing from the legal process to go forward and have that addressed. Councilor Kaplan.
I'm wondering how they come up with 18 million when the Bangor Mall just sold for 3.5. The entire mall.
The TJ Maxx and Hannaford's and Governor's on Broadway, that sold for 20 million. That was one of the sales I used during the Board of Appeals hearing.
What year did they sell for at that price?
I think it was 2017.
Okay.
I think Councilor Hamilton has the right point. I want to make sure the city still has legal standing. And I'll let I'd be happy to let the powers that be hash out the numbers, but I just want to make sure that we can be there to hash out the numbers and not be locked outside the room.
We still have standing in the first appeal,
And the second?
and we're gonna create another appeal.
The deadline to appeal to the State Property Tax Review Board is 60 days after the Board of Appeals decision. That's on the 24th. The Maine Coast Mall I have not received any paperwork. I usually get an email message from the State Property Tax Review Board when they receive a petition to appeal. So the Maine Coast Mall may not, they could do it on the last day, the 24th, but I haven't received a notice of that yet.
We could always withdraw the appeal at any point. If, we could file it, but we can always, it could be withdrawn if action is taken on the first one. But if we don't file it, we will never have another opportunity to do that. Council Lyons.
When's your last day to file the appeal
The 24th.
of September?
Mhm.
So 2 months ago, we could have looked at this and actually had time to look at it, and now we don't. We got 3 days.
It's just an application I gotta fill out and send in.
Councilors. Is there?
Mr. Chairman, I move to allow the city manager to sign an amendment to the original contract between the city of Ellsworth and Richard Welch dated March 20th,
Wrong one.
2017. Sorry, I'm on the wrong page.
Okay, we can do that.
I move to grant the city assessor Larry Gardner permission to appeal to the state property tax review board. Sorry.
Second.
You have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes 5-2. And that's how you know when your meeting's going too slow, when they read ahead.
Already approved yours.
Good evening. Josh McIntyre, Finance Director. A very quick, hopefully housekeeping item this evening. We are asking the council to approve an amendment to the 2017 Alewife contract between the city and Richard Welch to include his longtime partner, Alan Atherton. This was something that apparently should have been done a few years ago. It was not for whatever reason, and Mr. Welch would like to amend that contract. City attorney has been consulted on that and finds no reason not to approve the measure at this point.
So just for the record, another example of moving the meeting along. Let me just read it real quick. Council Order Number 092110, request of the Finance Director to amend the Alewives harvesting contract, just so everybody knows what we're talking about.
Sorry about
No,
that.
that's fine, I'm just kidding with you. Discussion. Council Kaplan.
So, I'm trying to understand what this is. So, this guy gets the ability to harvest alewives for the city of Ellsworth, and
We share in the proceeds annually. It's been going on for a long time.
is there any reason we haven't chosen a resident of Ellsworth for this?
Yeah, Atherton is, and he's actually the one doing it. Almost exclusively, actually. Welch isn't really doing it much at all.
The two men have been doing it for quite some time, and it's a unique and the harvesting is unique and because they move a certain amount up and they're allowed to keep a certain amount. They've done a very good job. They've done it the same for a long time, and I think it's time and tide. I think Rick's getting older and Alan's been doing a lot of the work and already doing it and just not on the contract.
And Alan is an Ellsworth resident?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure where he is.
Yes.
Pretty sure he is. Yes, I know he is. No, I
Yes.
know, yeah, I know where he lives now. Yeah,
Okay.
Bangor Road.
So just a little bit along those same lines, just out of curiosity, as far as all of our policies around procurement and contracts, is this in line with that? Are we able to renew contracts indefinitely, or do we have to go out to bid for certain contracts?
We have to go out to bid for certain contracts, but this is a contract that's already in existence, that was signed in 2017 for a 10-year period.
It's already in existence.
This is an
We haven't
amendment.
expired, it hasn't
This is an
expired.
amendment
Oh,
to
okay.
an existing contract.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Chairman? Do you have- Move to allow the city manager to sign an amendment to the original contract between the city of Ellsworth and Richard Welch dated March 20th, 2017, to name Alan Atherton as a secondary or successor party to the agreement.
Second.
You have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you.
It's working good. You do a heck of a job. Quick. Yeah.
It's fine. We gotta get going, right? Item 21, Council Order Number 092111, discussion and action on authorizing the possibility of adding accessible equipment to the Knowlton Park Playground. This is an item I put on the agenda. We have an individual in the community who is requesting that we install some accessible equipment on the playground. And this individual is willing to go out and seek some funding and may already have a resource to do that. So there would be no cost to the city to procure the equipment. It's really a matter of us, as a council, given the authority to work with city staff in terms of the logistics, in terms of placement, and any other issues. I know that there's certain green space and that's required. So that's the nature of the request, and Manager Moja, I don't know if there was any information that you had that would make this request impossible.
Yeah, well, not impossible, but, Jana, do you want to address just briefly on some of your knowledge of what the restrictions may be? I know if you take a look at the senior equipment, that was a 3-year process to get that, to get that equipment built and in place, and Jana can speak more to some of the restrictions that we have to work with, but I wouldn't say impossible, but probably going to be somewhat difficult.
Good evening, Jana Richards, Economic Development Director. So yeah, when we were trying to work on the senior playground project, we realized that there is some space that was dedicated in lieu of a wetlands mitigation for the wastewater treatment plant that is to forever remain green at the Knowlton Park. It's about 34,000 plus or minus square feet, and it's already been encroached upon a bit, so we don't have a lot of wiggle room within that footprint. So basically, it's the footprint of the 3 buildings that used to be existing there. So there was the main school building, and then 2 auxiliary buildings. So the playground, existing playground is outside of that footprint. The senior playground encroaches on that footprint a small amount, and the pergola sort of encroaches on that area. But if you were to go out toward the amphitheater or the other corner, that's outside of that footprint. So there is still room within the park to be able to site this equipment if it's not to be integrated into the original playground. And we'd be happy to try to work with this individual to see if it's something that could work. But we just wanted to make that, bring that to the attention of the council.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jana.
Council Kaplan?
So, something with the wastewater plant, which is half-mile away, limits what we can do in a playground. Because of green
Yeah.
space.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, this was something that was put into place when the wastewater treatment plant was built. I'm not supposed to express my personal beliefs, but I personally don't agree that it was a good trade-off. We have tried to work with the DEP to see if there's an alternative location that we could utilize so that we could be free to use this green space. But they have not bitten on what we have provided them as alternatives thus far. So right now, this is what we've been dealt with. It is acting for mitigation to go through quite a bit of wetlands to build the road to get to the wastewater treatment plant.
And that affects the playground.
I'm sorry?
So that, going through the wetlands to build the wastewater treatment plant half-mile away
Yes,
affects the playground. It doesn't go through a wetland.
exactly. So that's a trade-off system that the DEP
Got it.
allows you to do. So if you have a piece of land that looks perfect for development, yet you have to cross over a significant wetland to get there, they allow you to fill in that wetland as long as you dedicate a piece of green space to be preserved forever. And back when that happened, the city chose that part of Knowlton Park would be that green space.
Well, I hear that we have enough space, and I would
Yes.
vote every time for accessible equipment over a little bit of green space. So.
I agree. I think, I don't know what the concept plan is, but I think that there could be equipment integrated into the existing playground as it is. If it requires it to go outside of that, I think that we could work with this individual and try to find a place.
Janet, do we know how many square feet of green space that this new equipment would?
I don't know anything about the proposal, unfortunately.
I don't think they've scoped it out yet. They were just looking for permission before they would go out and start fundraising and all of that to make sure that the city supports that initiative. So that's why if we authorize to work with the city, they can figure all that detail out.
I'm surprised with the ADA that we haven't already thought of that ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. So.
And I'm still surprised at the amount of times I've taken my daughter to the playground. I've never seen an elderly or handicapped person on that playground other than just kids playing with their equipment. The new exercise area. It's kind of frustrating to me that there's always kids there and I've never seen an adult there working out or using the equipment.
There's your chance.
I'm not an adult. I'm still a kid.
All right, moving quickly. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, move to approve the accessible equipment that the city needs. Do you have a?
No.
Okay, move to approve the accessible equipment.
You have a
to work
motion?
with the city.
Second.
And a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? Unanimous? Yep. All right, so our new number 22 is a request by the Frenchman Bay Conservancy for an easement on a portion of the trail that runs behind the library. So I will turn it over to Aaron, and he will explain.
Can I pass this around? Great. Sure. So I'm Aaron Doherty, Executive Director of Frenchman Bay Conservancy. We hold the conservation easement on the Branch Lake City Forest, a city-owned property. We also own the Jordan Homestead Preserve and the Indian Point Preserve. Just by way of introduction, we're a 35-year-old land trust nonprofit organization, and our mission area includes Ellsworth to the Hancock-Washington County line. In this particular instance, we're looking at a trail easement, not a land conservation project per se, but really an access easement. So it's a pretty streamlined document compared to the conservation easements that we've done on other properties. My staff and I have discussed this request in detail with city staff, including Mr. Mosier, and they're supportive of the project. Once we secure trail easements, we'll begin rehabilitating the trail to make it more passable for walkers to enjoy the waterfront. FBC and partners will maintain the trail over time. We have all the funds that we need to do the work. We've raised grant funds to do that. We've also selected a contractor. We're in the process of securing a DEP permit, and once we have all the trail easements in place, we'll begin the trail work as soon as next month. So the first slide that you see is a map. It shows currently that the trail starts behind the library and it continues north toward the dam along the Union River, following the rough location of the existing path. The next map shows the parcels involved. So in addition to requesting a trail easement from you, we're also requesting an easement from the county. And we've had a number of conversations with them. They are also supportive, but they wanted to see the city take the first step. And Brookfield is the other landowner, and Brookfield has already agreed to sign the trail easement, and they're also financially supporting the project. In addition, there's at least one other landowner, because of some ambiguity around ownership by abutting landowners. We're also talking with an abutter about securing an easement, because there's a possibility that she may have access to the river. And it's a lack of clarity in the deeds that goes back to the 19th century. So just to be safe, we're looking at some of the abutters as well. And then the subsequent slides are just some photos. The trail will continue to accommodate elver fishermen and will allow walking access to the water, including different vantage points like some of the ones that you see. The trail will be moved whenever feasible out of the 25-foot setback because it's in the shoreland zone. Maine DEP has asked where it's possible for us to move that 25 feet away from the river. So that's going to be a little ways uphill, and then we'll be doing the tread work and stone work at that point. So that's a quick summary of what we're doing. The trail easements, again, are really the first step for us. Once the landowners grant these access easements, we then can begin the work, and the work is primarily focused on making the trail a little bit more accessible, and ensuring that any stormwater doesn't continue, doesn't wash out the trail, but it's handled properly. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Councilor Kaplan.
If we grant this because of the wetland zone and the easement, are we gonna have to give up part of City Hall parking lot as a green space? Being facetious.
Any other questions?
So, it's all
Absolutely.
privately funded and everything's all taken care of that way?
It is, yes. We're not asking for funding.
Yeah.
And will the Elber fishermen be able to access the water by using that trail?
They can, yes.
I just want to say thank you for bringing the project to Ellsworth. That's definitely a trail that needs improvement, and by doing that, there'll more accessibility along the river, additional walkway along the shore road. It'll be very nice, so.
Great, thank you.
Thanks for putting a little packet together. It makes it easy to see it, too.
Good, yes, you're welcome.
Mr. Chairman, move to approve to grant a permanent easement to the Frenchman Bay Conservancy for the purpose of rehabbing and maintaining a portion of the river walk behind the library and heading along the shore road.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then the new item 23, and this is regarding a change in state law that will allow certain employees to choose where they direct their retirement, and the accessibility to the Maine state retirement plans.
Good evening, counselors. I provided a memo to you previously with retirement options here, you had to elect in your first 30 days to opt into main state retirement. And if you chose not to, you never had a chance again, one and only. They recognize now that that prohibits a lot of people enrolling and making a smart choice early on in their career. So 2 laws have recently passed allowing an annual open enrollment for this particular retirement system, but we have to opt in to allow it. And so I'm requesting that we opt in, and it would allow employees with 5 or more years of service every year from September to November to switch their retirement plan to Main State.
Just a quick question. As far as the city is concerned, this really is just an employee choice. There's no expense for the city. It's just that they've opened up the retirement account.
Correct. We offer 2 systems. You can choose Main State or ICMA, or neither. And so this just opens it up. So if they have the other one, they would drop that one and we would pay for this one. So we're paying for one or the other, but not both for each person.
Other questions?
Mr. Chairman, move to adopt the provisions of 5 MRSA subsection 18252-C as requested by the City of Ellsworth HR Director Tony Dyer as written, and to authorize the city manager to sign any and all of the documents from MEPERS, MEPERS, to finalize such action.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Thank you.
All those opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. All right, item 24. Item 24, Council Order Number 092112, discussion and action on authorizing city staff to develop an ordinance that restricts the overnight mooring, anchoring of boats, floats, houseboats, or other floating structures to land owners and/or individuals who have received written permission from a landowner. So before we open it up for public comment, I just want to remind everyone that we've had a workshop specifically on this item. It was also discussed in a previous council meeting, so we've had a lot of public comments. You're welcome to comment this evening. However, a couple of ground rules that we're going to ask is you need to come to the podium. That's where comments will be made. It won't be made from your seat. Please go to the podium, state your name, where you live. We're going to limit comments to 3 minutes, and we're going to ask that you direct all comments to the council. That's who you're talking to. That's where we want this to be. We don't want this to be a debate among yourselves. Please direct your comments this way, and then we will take up the item. So if the council is okay with that, we'll start with the comments, and then we'll move into our discussion on that. So if you'd like to comment, please step to the podium.
I'm sure you got, all your councilmen or council persons are familiar with me. Terry Pinkham. I live in Ellsworth, Maine. Residence at 458 Bangor Road, and I have property at 586 Nicola Road. We've been here before. We've all done this. At the end of the day, we're talking about a house that is built on a pontoon boat, okay? 24-foot pontoon boat that's on Green Lake in Ellsworth. In the wintertime, we go out there with many people in this room right now, and we have many ice shacks out there all winter long. It's never a problem for anybody out there on the lake until it's a problem in the summer, okay? So you guys are getting ready to vote on an ordinance that pertains to house floats on Green Lake or mooring them, and it's specifically me is who we're talking about. We're not talking about all floats because it's just me we're talking about. It's very unfortunate that we've come this far with this topic. It's brought up by one person, and it's kind of ridiculous. There's no enforcement in place for this, for you guys to put an ordinance on a house float on any lake. It's a state of Maine issue. But we've been through the article, we've been through the title, we've been through all of it. There's nobody there in the wintertime to see the ice shacks. There's to the tune of 100, 150 ice shacks out there. Excuse me. They're way less prettier than our house float. Nobody has a problem with those. All of a sudden, when June comes around, there's an issue for 3 months. We live here all year round. We fish this lake, we hunt around the lake, we recreate on it on the summer and the winter months. I don't feel like our rights should be infringed to do so because one person has an issue with it. You bought the property in the state of Maine on the lake knowing you do not own the water in front of it. Now you want to regulate 200 feet out in front. You don't want to own it, but you want to regulate it. That's not fair to anybody in the state or the city of Ellsworth, okay? I think that this ordinance is not to be discussed by the city council, which I've stated before. I understand that you guys feel that it's something you need to discuss, okay? I've heard discussions about the basketball courts up here. There's a lady that's been complaining behind it because the curfew's not being enforced past 9 o'clock. That hasn't come to a city council meeting. All of a sudden, we have an attorney that works for the city of Ellsworth through Eaton Peabody, Andrew Hamilton, who has brought it to you
All right, we're
guys.
gonna
And it's
direct your
been,
comments.
I'm sorry, and now it's being discussed here.
That's 3 minutes.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, guys.
Who else would like to speak?
My name's Dale Jellison. I live on 803 Green Lake Road in Dedham, and I would like to refute some of the comments that you've just heard. I would ask those in the audience that are in favor of an ordinance that would address this issue to please.
No.
You can't, okay.
Let me restate,
I'm
okay?
sorry.
And I'll stop your time. No, stop.
I wasn't allowed to.
And am I allowing him? I'm not allowing him, right?
Thank you.
I've asked
I'm
not
so-
to engage. We're not going to have a debate.
I'm sorry.
If you want to make comments, you can make it. You're not an Ellsworth resident, and we would appreciate some respect about the rules. Thank you.
Yes, I'm sorry. The majority of the people in this room are in favor of an ordinance. So that's my statement.
Would anyone else like to speak?
Good evening, members of the City Council. My name is Andrew Hamilton. I have a second residence at 493 Scotts Neck Way on Green Lake in Ellsworth, Maine. I'm also a property taxpayer here in Ellsworth, Maine. I would advise the council that I am fine with what's been proposed as an agenda item. I've heard from several folks that they would prefer the Rangeley-style ordinance because it is straightforward to enforce, and we believe that it will use the least resources of the city and its staff. We have researched whether there would be firms available to haul boats if they're attached to an unregistered mooring, and we've learned that there are such firms. I don't want to get into a tit for tat tonight, so I won't. Thank you for your time and for all your efforts, and I want to thank the city councilors who understand the concern. We did not bring this forward lightly, and I do not believe that it is just me. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak?
My name is John Linehan. I live at 157 Shore Road here in Ellsworth. I have two concerns. All I know is what I've been reading in the paper going back and forth. I really have two concerns about the issue. Number one, I believe that we're too overregulated, too many ordinances in place right now. I'm a strict constitutionalist, whether it's our United States or our Maine Constitution, and I believe we're getting way too many ordinances and over-regulations that are hindering some of our original freedoms that our founding fathers originally intended for us to have. That's my number one concern. So I don't think there should be an ordinance concerning this. My second concern is taxes in the city of Ellsworth. I'm running for the city council right now for the next election. One of my prime issues is the taxes here in the city of Ellsworth. And I look at the enforcement side of this ordinance and other ordinances as increasing our tax base more than it should be. So I don't care about the valuation of the mill rate. All I look at is our taxes going up or down. And so one of my reasons for running is to reduce the taxes, not hold them the same, or not increase them slightly, is to reduce it by looking closely at the spending here in the city of Ellsworth and evaluating that and reducing it as possible. So in my opinion, this ordinance should not be voted on. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak? I'm Lane Rowe, and we have property at 477 Scotts Neck Way. The gentleman that just spoke had a good point. We don't like to have over ordinances, but when common sense and common courtesy doesn't occur, where someone comes and stays and has plenty of people day in, day out, all summer long, essentially in front of your camp, it sort of begs some kind of need for help. And therefore, we're in this position where we're asking for some kind of ordinance, some kind of help. You know, if someone came for a day, that's fine. But to camp out day in, day out, to come off of your float, come onto private land to defecate or urinate or just leave your trash, which not only is no longer happening here because they've moved to Dedham, but now it's happening on the property in front of my friend's house in Dedham. So, as Andy Hamilton said, this isn't something that we brought lightly. It's not something that, we wanted to force on people, but this is where we are. And if one person ends up not respecting people's place of residence, then there could be another. So it's not just against Mr. Pinkham. It's just that he's an example of what can happen. And once you've got one, you can have more. And so therefore, I ask for you to consider having this ordinance. Thank you. Anyone else?
Audrey Tunney, I live at 35 Grant Street in Ellsworth. I just wanted to make a comment about the comparison between ice shacks and what's going on here. And that is, ice shacks, by law, are identified. Owner's name, telephone number. That's a law in the state of Maine. So there is a certain regulation, if you will, where ice shacks are concerned. And that provides certain security to camp owners on the lake, that they will know if in fact there's been a transgression. Happened on my property at Green Lake, that someone tore up our lawn trying to launch their ice shack. We knew who it was, and we were able to get restitution. So I think, to use the ice shack as a comparison to this and the potential for this lack of regulation around this type of craft is really not warranted. I mean, it's just not right. Thank you.
My name is Jason Spinney, 88 Beatson Road here in Ellsworth. I'm also half owner of the float that's in question. I just wanted to address, I wasn't going to stand up because you guys have heard everything I pretty much have to say, except for a few things I just heard I wanted to address.
We never left trash or defecated on any beach or anybody's property. We never personally did. Other people may have, we haven't. The property we're in front of now has multiple cameras. The owner has stuck up maybe 5 different cameras. They watch us 24/7. We have no privacy whatsoever. We have never stepped a foot on their property. So first off, I just wanted to get the record straight there. The second thing, I would love to save you guys a ton of money in enforcement, and we'll go ahead and put our name and address right on it and make it just like they regulate with ice shacks, if that's our concern. We'd be happy to put our name and address on it. I think everybody already knows who we are in the whole state at this point, but if it makes a difference, we'll put our name and address on it. We've complied with everything else that's come forward with lights, reflectors, location, which legally our location was fine, but we've complied since day one, and we've honestly done everything we can to be as unabrasive as possible to property owners, people on the water, to everybody. So in my opinion, it's our right to have it there. I don't think there should be an ordinance. I don't think Ellsworth should waste their money on enforcing an ordinance. Thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Harry Moore. I live on Green Lake in Ellsworth. And I'd like to make a point, it's not between two individuals that we're talking about here. It's the way of the times of people not being able to buy land and buy places because of the limitations of property. So they revert to using the lake for houseboats and to stay there at nights and for the full time in the summertime. If you look on the computer and look up houseboats and flotation devices, you'll see that it's the thing that's coming. Lake Sebago has houseboats on their lake, and there's lots of them. And people stay on them all summer long because one thing is inexpensive to have a houseboat, and you don't have to pay the taxes, and you don't have the issues that landowners have in having septic systems, and I don't have to tell you what landowners have to put up with to have the places they have, and to have people to come in and not support what we have to do on land is not fair. I understand the dilemma and of the people who want this type of activity of having houseboats and so forth. I understand that. But you also have to look at the other aspects of it, of anchoring in front of somebody's property. They say, well, you have to get permission from that person. I have a 100-foot lot, and to have people anchored in front of my neighbor, and they have music and activities going on, it affects 500 feet on each side of me and across the lake. Noise carries on the lake, and people across the lake, I can hear them like in my own backyard. So if you have a lot of activity like that, it's not just a 100-foot lot. It's all around the lake that's within hearing distance of that activity. Well, that's my take on it, and then thank you for listening.
Anyone else?
Was it just 3-minute intervals, or was it 3 minutes only?
It's 3 minutes per person.
Okay.
That was 248.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Patty Hamilton, 493 Scotts Neck Way. I just wanted to mention that I'm in favor. I think that, as Mr. Moore just said, many lakes have ordinances to, take care of those issues, and I think this is a good middle ground, and I appreciate the effort of the council to consider it. Thank you.
Any other comments? All right, seeing none, I will open up for council discussion.
Council Chair, before you begin, I just want to point out that there is no ordinance being proposed here tonight. This is simply a conversation for the council to make a decision and direct staff to either begin to work towards putting together an ordinance and bringing that forward to the council for a vote in the future, or to not. So it just seems that there's some confusion that perhaps there's an ordinance, and there is not an ordinance being brought forward tonight.
Thank you, Manager Mosier. That's an important point. Council Kaplan.
So, as a shorefront owner, once again, I don't own the water. Anything past the water, I don't own. Somebody could, park a boat. I don't care. It's not my property. Even if I don't like the view, it's not permanent. I just think that people have a right to recreate on the lake, especially where they pay excise tax for their boat. And that excise tax pays for the boat launch and helps maintain the lake. And that actually benefits me as well, because then I know that the water's clean. But I don't own the water. Nobody does. It's a resource that's available to all people in the state of Maine, whether it's ice fishing, which yes has a name on it, or it has an excise tax sticker, which if you see the sticker, you could easily identify who owns the boat. As far as people coming in and saying, oh, well, we're going to have all sorts of houseboats. Houseboats are not that cheap yes, they built a nice one, but, as the saying goes, a boat is a hole in the water surrounded by wood into which one pours money. They're not that cheap to maintain, and especially to get a nice houseboat down a boat launch on Green Lake, they're going to go for the bigger lakes. I'm just not a fan of limiting the rights of the few, because we are a constitutional republic. And in a constitutional republic, the rights of the individual supersede the rights of the collective.
Council Black.
I am so far against pushing for this. As a person who probably has used 3/4 of the lakes in this state, I want to keep the right to use those lakes for whatever I want to do on the lake. I don't step foot on anybody's property. I have, in the past, however, been approached several times by people screaming and hollering because they think because I cast my fishing lure near their dock that they can do that, which irritates me beyond all belief. And I wouldn't be willing to go along with any kind of looking into an ordinance or anything, personally, my personal opinion. And I guess that's where I stand on that.
So I guess I'll just make a couple comments in terms of, I absolutely 100% agree with the law that exists, that our lakes are accessible to all. There's no question about that. This is not what we're debating. It's not an issue. And there would never be an ordinance that a municipality could pass that would prevent that from happening. It just couldn't happen. The state would, that certainly would not pass muster. It'd be in court very quickly, and it would be overturned because that's not the law. The law is that lakes are accessible. So I don't feel that that's what we're talking about. I think what we're talking about, at least from my perspective, is that balance that exists in terms of how lakes are utilized. And as a member of this council, I believe that I always have that responsibility to look at all sides of the issue, how it impacts all citizens, all taxpayers, to try to find some sort of balance when there's a problem. This is clearly an issue that we needed to take up. I haven't seen this many people in workshops and council meetings on a topic in a long time. So there's no question that this is an issue that we needed to address and need to look at. The balance that I look at is how do you have the respect to allow for the law and access to the lakes, while also the right of the property owners who are paying quite a bit of tax for that type of property, and maintaining that balance. And what the law says is that you can't, in the dark of night, go out fishing on a lake. One of the questions I asked previously was, well, what about taking it in and out? That's what most people do. They go into the lake, they use the lake, and they take it back out. I think an ordinance along that just defines it in that manner in some way is a reasonable expectation, and it moves it beyond a situation where this could just become a worse scenario for the city with the number of lakes that we have. Other communities have done similar or created similar ordinances. It has obviously stood muster with everything. So I'm not advocating for and would not vote in favor of any ordinance that would prevent access to the lakes. That will never get my vote. But I think a fair ordinance that says that those things need to be taken out, I think is reasonable. I think there's a difference in the winter with ice shacks. Most camps are not year-round camps. There aren't the same number of people residing on the lakes during that time. I think I think they're apples and oranges from my particular opinion on that matter. So that's where I stand on it, is trying to find that reasonable balance that allows 100% access, but also respects the landowners. Council Capital.
I think that you're not complaining so much about nighttime activity is the fact that people are enjoying the lake in front of their house during the day. Jumping off, I've seen videos. They're just, they're jumping off the thing, they're swimming, they're having a grand old time. And some people are being a little territorial and saying, well, I don't want them doing that in front of my house. It's the lake. People have a right to use the lake. And
Well,
it's during the day that they're complaining.
But that's where, just so I'm really clear, that I agree. If somebody wants to fish in front of wherever, and they go in on the lake, they have the right to do that. An ordinance that gets created cannot prevent access and use of the lake. That's not what I'm advocating. So whether that's true or not, I think the restriction around overnight is definitely a real issue. And there's a bigger issue in terms of getting out in front of something, in terms of what if somebody did put a houseboat in? That's what happened in Rangeley, was that somebody had a houseboat and they put it on the water and they took it up. So that taking it in and out is what I'm talking about, not restricting the use of it. Council Lyons.
A couple of things. Number one, I guess I wish 200 years ago they'd made an ordinance that nobody can buy the land around the lake so that everybody could enjoy that land and the lake. But aside from that, I have a big concern that could result of this whole thing. I feel like, okay, so you make it so somebody can take their boat out and put it in every day. Well, that day that they take it out, I would seem like they could put it wherever they want. And I can see what's going to happen with this. I'm not going to say that it's going to happen, but I can see where it could happen. Whereas every single weekend, all year long, while somebody's enjoying their camp, there's 20 boats pulled up in front of it, and every single day they take them off and they take them to the boat landing and they put them back just because they're kind of irritated that they lose privileges of any sort to the lake. And I'm not going to say it's going to happen, but I can see that could happen. And I think sometimes, be careful what you wish for, may come true. And then there's going to be no regulation because they can stay there from the time they pull it out in the morning till the time they take it out at night, jumping off the top of it, 100 feet from your dock, in front of it, directly in your line of sight. And they can play there for days and days and days, and all they gotta do is drag it across the lake and take it out every night. Another thing that I see, if one person has to take their pontoon boat every day out, everybody should take their boats out every day. And if your dock is anchored into the water and not just onto your property, you should be taking all those anchors out every day and let your dock free float from your land. And that's just my take on it, but I really think this is gonna create bigger problems than we can ever imagine right tonight.
Councilors? Anybody else?
I have put some work and effort into this summer trying to make this a non-issue. And I thought it was kind of gone away. I'm hoping it doesn't become a bigger issue than it really is, from any side.
As you can see, it didn't work.
Why?
We wouldn't be sitting here again with the opposing parties again.
Because, I don't know, it's been gone all summer from in front of that camp. It's gonna be back next year and it's every single weekend. I'm afraid of it.
Other comments? Council Grindle?
So what's on the agenda is discussion and action on authorizing city staff to develop an ordinance that restricts the overnight mooring, anchoring of boats, floats, houseboats, or other floating structures to landowners and/or individuals who have received written permission from a landowner. I think the overnight piece of it is a key, and I also think the written permission is key. I believe you stated in the workshop that you had written permission to be where you are at this time, and you're also in Dedham, so this really doesn't affect you currently. So, I'd like to take the action to authorize the city staff to make a motion.
You made a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, further discussion. There's a motion and a second. Okay, Council Caplan.
That leaves out just the average Joe that doesn't know somebody to give them permission or isn't a landowner. So if somebody from, let's say, Dedham, who doesn't have permission, can't put their boat on that lake?
Overnight?
The motion's to direct staff to develop the thing. So that'll be vetted several times. You'll have more public hearings and you can argue that point. This is moving along for further discussion for staff to develop something. And it still has to go before council to be passed.
All this does is to decide from the council perspective of whether we want the staff to invest in their time to propose an ordinance or not. And that's what we're voting on this evening. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of the motion? All those opposed? Motion passes. Manager Mosher, you can work with your staff in terms of working on that, and whenever that time arises, to bring it back to the council at that time for review.
We will begin.
Item 25, executive session for consultations between a body or agency and its attorney in accordance with MRSA Title I, Chapter 13, Section 405, Paragraph 6E. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? All those opposed? Unanimous.
I'm a day late and a dollar short.
right, so Heidi, Mark motioned, Bob seconded, 8:56 to come out of executive session. All right. Item 26, Council Order Number 092113, discussion and action on matters from the executive session aforementioned in Agenda Number 25. All right, I will. The discussion, currently, we have interests in developing solar farms in the city, and there are several projects in front of the Planning Commission at this time. But if you look around across the state, there are many projects being proposed, and the potential is for there to be a big increase in proposals. As a city, I'm not sure we're in a position yet to really understand all the consequences of that kind of rapid growth in that industry for the city, what that means both short-term, long-term. And so I would like to see the city staff develop a moratorium for solar development that would be 180 days to give time for the city to look at the issue, understand it a little bit better, define it, and so that as we move forward, we're moving forward with a plan rather than just reacting to proposals. I would not support or propose that we impact the existing proposals. This would be a moratorium from the date that it's presented to the council forward.
Is that a motion?
It's a motion.
Second.
Discussion. Everyone, all in favor? All opposed? One opposition? One opposed? Motion passes. Any questions from city staff in terms of what's being requested?
I think that we can work with the staff to prepare the appropriate short ordinance that you can use to adopt a moratorium if you decide to do that. I encourage you to schedule a public hearing, the same meeting at which you'll then consider whether to adopt it.
Sure. Great. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Item 27, executive session to discuss labor negotiations between the City of Ellsworth and Ellsworth Highway Unit, Massachusetts, and Northern New England's Laborers District Council, Local 327, in accordance with MRSA Title I, Chapter 13, Section 405, Paragraph 6D. Is there a motion?
Could I borrow Mr. Moser just for a moment to talk about the fire?
A motion to go into executive session?
Motion to go into executive session.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? We are in executive session.
Sunday and
Unfortunately,
Monday.
we didn't.
You must have a bar in your
Why do we have
We'll
you?
head up there.
Of course.
What?
You are welcome in my
We
house
headed up to
anytime.
his bar after the meeting. Yeah, I got enough alcohol under the sink before you leave.
All right. Item
28.
28. Council Order Number 092114, action on labor negotiations between the City of Ellsworth and Ellsworth Highway Unit, Massachusetts, and Northern New England Laborers District Council Local 327.
Mr. Chairman, move to accept the contract as proposed.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? Unanimous. Item 28, adjournment.
So moved.
Unanimous. We're adjourned.